Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be going over the aside section of our web page. We're going to be implementing a simple filter nav bar by the side of the page, so let's get right into that. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is make a few changes to the aside section of the web page, like to this side, to make it a bit smaller because right now it's too wide. First we go over to the CSS file. We're going to change this from 40 actually to 20. Then we want to change the background color. Rather than this, we want to change this to white, and then we want to take out the border radius also because it's gonna pose a problem later on, so we'll change that to 0. We also need to include like a border on this side to separate the main from the side, so that's gonna be border right. Set that to solid, and then we're going to use the same color as the nav bar, and the width should be thin. There we go. Next we're going to do the display. We're going to set that to flex, and the flex direction, because we're going to arrange everything within in columns, so flex direction is going to be column. For now, let's set the justify content to flex start. Okay, so let's head over to the HTML and start adding in our elements. First we need a p tag for our filter. Okay, so we need to head over to the CSS and change the color. Let's use the same as the nav bar for this one. So this, but it doesn't show up. I'm guessing it's because we set the general color to white. So let's take this out. There we go. So back to the HTML file. Let's give this an ID of filter, and then we need another one for p tag, and this is going to be category. So let's call this a class because it's going to be multiple categories. So class of filter header. So now we need a form that's going to hold all the different categories we're going to be offering. Take this out. We don't need an action, we just need an ID, and we're going to call this form 1. Break this down. Now we need to create items in these categories. Starting, we need the div for each category. Then within this div we're going to have an input that's going to be type of radio, not text. Then next we need a label for this. It's going to belong to the class of filter type instead. Next we put in each category. So this is going to be basketball shoes. So let's create more of this. 2, 3, 4. And the next one is going to be let's say soccer shoes. And the next one, let's say boys sneakers. And the last one, let's call it probably men's casual shoes. There we go. So those are 3 categories. Now let's go over to the CSS and make some quick arrangements to this. So first, the filter, we're going to reduce the size on that. So let's start with the filter first. So over to this side, it's ID filter. We're going to say font size. Let's set that to 25 pixels. Font weight, we're going to set that to bold. Let's just move on to the text align. Set that to left. Then the margin top, we're going to set that to 20 pixels. The margin bottom, we're going to set that to 0. And then the border radius, we're also going to set that to 0. Lastly, we're going to add in a border at the bottom that separates the filter from the categories. So border bottom, set that to solid. The color is going to be the same as the nav bar, and then the width is going to be thin. There we go. So that works for now. Let's go on to the other categories. Once we're done with that, we'll move them all to the side. So the next on the list is the filter header. For this, we're going to set the font size to 20 pixels. Then the text align, it's going to be left. Next, the margin is going to be 0, but the margin top, we're going to set that to 20 pixels. For this, the font weight is also going to be bold. That looks about right. So next, let's move on to the filter type. We're going to set that to a font size of 20 pixels, and then the margin top should be 20 pixels also. Next, we're going to address the arrangement within the form. So form, we're going to set the display to flex. That's not correct, so it's going to be form 1. There we go. So display to flex direction, we're going to set that to column. Then align items, we're going to set that to flex start. There we go. Okay, so let's put our border at the bottom. Border bottom, we're going to set that to solid. The color is going to be shown as a nav bar, and then the width is going to be thin. There we go. Now we need to take out the border radius, so border radius, set that to 0. Nice. So let's add in the next filter section of our web page. Okay, so next we're going to be adding the shoe size category of the filter nav bar. For that, we need another p tag that's going to say shoe size, and it's going to belong to the class filter header. So for this, we need another form, and that form is going to belong to the ID of form 2. So within this form, we also need a div. Let's put this in the class of filter item, which is a new class, and then within it, we're going to house an input, which is going to be of type radio, and then label, which is going to belong to the class of filter type. Okay, that looks about right. So let's start with the size 10. So let's copy and paste this a couple times. Okay, and there we go. So now we have all the shoe sizes from 10 to 13.5. Now let's head over to the CSS and rearrange all our items. The first one we're going to address is the form. So hashtag form 2, and we're going to set the display to grid in this case. For the grid template columns, we're going to set the repeat to 2, 1, FR. Next, we're going to change the border bottom to solid, same as the other ones. Solid, it's going to be same as the nav bar, and then the width is going to be thin. Border radius, we're going to set that to 0. So we're going to add one more section to this filter bar. So head over to the HTML. Okay, so first we need our p tag, and this one is going to say shoe color, and it's going to belong to the class of filter header. Now we need to create the form. The ID is going to be form 3, and then within this form we're going to add in divs, clickable divs per se. So div is going to be class filter item. So each of these individual div is not going to have anything within, it's just going to display a color. So for that, we need to change the colors from here. So we're going to set the style, then the background color to, let's start this one with black. Okay, nothing shows up right now because we haven't given it a width and a height. For that, I'll prefer we did it on the CSS file. Okay, so over in the CSS file, we go over to the bottom. Let's start with the filter items. When you want to make changes to a class within a div, but you don't want it to affect other classes, access the div first, so form 3. Then we're going to access the class within it, filter underscore item. So now we can set the width of just the shoe color section. So we change the width to 30 pixels and then the height to 30 pixels. There we go. Now it shows up. So let's go back to the HTML file and add in all the colors. Then we can come back and then rearrange them the way we want them to be. So we're going to copy this. So let's change this one to red, and then this one yellow, and orange, royal blue for this one. For the next one, let's do green. Next, let's do khaki, and the last one, let's do sky blue. Okay, there we go. Now let's head over to the CSS file. So first, I want to access the form and arrange them in a grid. So hash form 3, and we're going to set the display to grid. We're going to set the grid templates column. We're going to set to repeat to 1 FR. So next, over in the form filter item, we're going to set the margin top to, let's say, 20 pixels. But then I would like it to have like a border around it. So let's fix that. Border, set that to solid. We're going to set the color to the same as the nav bar, and then the width is going to be thin also. So next, I'd like to add some effect to this. So when you overrate, it changes to a pointer. Okay, so we're going to access the exact same thing. Form 3 dot filter item. Then we're going to change the transform, then scale, set that to 1.1. Forgot to add the over, so that's the effect we want. But I would like a shadow though, and it should change to a pointer instead. So first, cursor, change that to pointer, and then let's give it a box shadow. Say 0, 0, 10 pixels, and color, let's say the color should be the same as the nav bar again. So there we go. It all works correctly. You can select a shoe size. Now that is not meant to happen like that. We shouldn't be able to select multiple. It should just be one. So let's fix that. Okay, in order for us to like fix this error, all items buttons need to be within the same name class. So I'm going to go over to the HTML file and add in each, let's just say name item. We're going to copy this to every individual item on the filter bar. So there we go. Now we can only select one within each div. So lastly, it's too close to the outer part of the screen, so I just need to add the padding to this to move everything a bit to the side. Okay, there we go. So that looks about okay. That looks all right for now. That looks very good. So that's going to be it for this tutorial. In case you have any questions, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. And if you want to keep seeing my videos, be sure to leave a like or subscribe. And in the next video, we're going to go over the footer of the web page, and that's going to conclude the entire series of introduction to web development and semantic design. But for now, thank you for watching and have a nice day.